Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started with session 0. So as a reminder, session 0 is just my plan to jumpstart your understanding of sociology theories, because that can be pretty confusing if you have not taken a sociology course in the past. And so I'm just going to spend some time, session 0, talking about those 3 theories and making sure that you're comfortable with those before we actually start the course content of sociology of the family. So as a reminder, in a typical session, you will need to read the email that I send out to you that has all of the assignments and directions and tips and things like that before you start on anything. You'll then need to move into the assigned reading. There'll be a journal activity. There'll be some sort of lecture material. Oftentimes it will be a video. It may be me. It may be someone else. Sometimes it just may be some simple items from your textbook. And then you'll take electronic notes based upon that lecture information. And then you'll have a writing activity to kind of solidify everything that you have learned. As a reminder, the notes are electronic, so that means you actually need to type into the document, not handwrite them. I don't create a lot of space on the document for handwriting notes, just so what you have expands as you type. So for session 0, we're going to focus on that general understanding of those 3 sociological, or the main 3 sociological theories. There's going to be 3 videos that you're required to watch. This one is number 1. The second would be Crash Course in Sociology number 1, which is titled What is Sociology? And the third would be Crash Course in Sociology number 2, which is entitled Major Sociological Paradigms. So you're going to watch these 3 videos, and then you're going to take lecture notes for session 0. And depending upon how comfortable you are with sociological terms, you may want to watch those 3 videos and then go to the notes and try to complete the notes, and possibly maybe rewatch several of those videos as you're adding to the notes. So when I'm grading these notes, I'm looking for a general understanding that you have grasped the concept of these 3 main sociological theories. I want to see evidence that you have watched all 3 videos and that you gained something from each one of them. So keep that in mind as you're completing those notes. So I first want to start by introducing to you the 3 main theoretical paradigms in sociology. We also call these theories. So we'll interchange the term theoretical paradigm and theory. They are pretty much the main 3 that sociologists used or continuously use to analyze common aspects of society. And their quest is to understand society and the people that are in it. And they want to understand that better. They want to have an understanding of why people do the things that they do in their certain lifestyles, in their communities. And so everything in this course is going to relate to something about the family or the family unit. But it certainly can expand much further than that. A lot of times sociologists will also use these theories to analyze social problems. For example, poverty. So poverty is probably the largest social problem in general, especially in the United States when we're talking sociology and social problems. I'm not saying that poverty is the most important social problem. I'm just saying probably the largest social problem, because there's elements of poverty in every social issue, just because poverty affects everything. It is far-reaching. And so we're going to look at these different social aspects or problems as they relate to the family in this particular course. And so we'll begin here. There's structural functionalism, there's conflict theory, and there's symbolic interactionism. So those are the three main theories that sociologists use, and they use them for a wide variety of things, but of course to examine social problems. So we'll start here with structural functionalism, excuse me. I also like to use this particular image because it helps us understand the concept behind this theory. So structural functionalism is a macro analysis, and macro means large, big, overarching. So this is a large scale theory. It's the idea that society as a whole is made up of a bunch of interrelated parts, and all those parts work together in order for society to continue in a smooth pattern. In this theory, society is viewed as a living, functioning organism, and each part of the organism, much like the body, so you'll see that I use this photo to remind us of structural functionalism. So each part of the organism or each part of society has a role and a function, and when one part does not do what they should, that creates a problem, such as if a piece or a part or a system in your body doesn't work correctly, that creates issues for your body. So this is kind of how we relate to that. So, like a medical issue in your body. So this is like society is not functioning smoothly. Something is awry. So now when we think about that, here comes the role of the family. And believe it or not, there are actual functions or roles that families are supposed to perform in order for them to contribute to a well-functioning society. And we'll get more into that in session 1. So the next is conflict theory. Conflict theory is also another micro level, so large scale. When examining things in society, a conflict theorist will focus on struggle and struggle for resources, especially like scarce resources, in regards to different groups within society. And they say these groups are continuously competing for resources. They're continuously struggling for power. And typically the group that has the most resources gains the most power. And that group will obviously end up with the most power, and they will keep the most power or the control of the resources. And this sort of creates a vicious cycle. Now, the group in society that has the most power and the most resources is something that sociologists typically call the power elite. And that's typically the top 1% of society. So if you look at a breakdown of incomes in the United States, the top 1% of society is in possession of and earns most of the money. So we call those the elite. We hear a lot about that in politics, mainly because the power elite get their way in politics because they have the money to pay the lobbyists to convince the politicians to vote a particular way. So this is just that constant conflict, that constant struggle. And sociologists analyze this by saying this conflict cycle, so this struggle over resources and power, is actually what creates inequality in our society. And if you're thinking about it in terms of family, we have a lot of inequality, especially within our family units and how they live. We have some families that live in great neighborhoods with huge houses and zero crime. And then we have some families that may barely live in a house that is standing. We still have families in the United States that don't live with power or running water. We have families that live in communities that are, victims of high crime rates. And so you think about families in America and the inequality that exists between them. And I just previously mentioned to you that poverty has a lot to do with social problems. And so that's kind of where conflict theory comes in. It's that main struggle of the haves and the have-nots. And we'll also, we think about gender a lot when we talk about conflict theory. Males versus females, and who gains the most respect and who has the better paying jobs and that kind of stuff. The third and final theory that we're going to talk about is symbolic interactionism. Symbolic interactionism is not macro, so it is not big scale. It's a small scale, so it's actually called a micro level. And this is talking about how it affects the particular person or about how individuals see things. So the central idea of symbolic interactionism is that symbols, which are things that we attach meanings to, are key to understanding how we view the world and how we communicate with one another. So sociologists use symbolic interactionism to analyze how our place in society depends on the way that we define ourselves. And the way we define ourselves and others, so in terms of family, how we define ourselves in our own family units, or how we define what family means to us or what family means to other people. So this micro level that we talk about with symbolic interactionism is very different for each individual. So how you view family may be very different from how I view family. So that's just one example here. So how you feel about a certain topic and how I feel about that same topic may be completely opposite of each other, but neither of us are necessarily wrong. So we simply came to our own conclusions based upon our own world and our own experiences. And that, to me, is the beauty of sociology. So it gives us the power to look at anything in society, and it gives us the ability to see it from multiple viewpoints. And hopefully that's going to create understanding. I'm not saying that it's going to create agreement among everyone, but an understanding. And that to me is very important when we talk about having to live harmoniously with others in our communities. Just to create an understanding of why people think and act and live in a certain way. And sometimes when we get that clear understanding of why people act the way they do or think the way they do, it actually gives us the ability to communicate with each other better and hopefully change the things that we need to change in order to make our societies better. So I hope that has given you a little bit of insight on the three theories. You'll see I talk about them in a certain way. Each one of the other videos that you will watch will give you more in-depth information. And so hopefully after you watch all three videos and kind of marinate on that information, you'll kind of come to a better understanding of what these three theories mean. If you are still confused at that point, I would encourage you to go out and do some reading and some research on your own. And you may find a resource that explains things better to you, that you understand in a little bit simpler terms. And if you do find something that was interesting to you, please feel free to share it with me. I'd love to see the resources that do a good job of relating to you so you can understand. So don't forget to complete your Session 0 lesson notes. You'll see there are items on the left-hand side that you need to answer, but you will answer them on the right-hand side under the notes column. So you will fill in that information, and then there are 2 reflection questions at the bottom. And just be sure that you remember that this is college-level work, and so more than a few words are required for each particular section. You need to thoroughly make sure that you understand these items. Please email me if you have any questions or concerns, and I'll be happy to help you.